Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and before you click away, let me ask you something. What if I told you that a penny sitting in your drawer right now, a coin you might have received as change from the grocery store, could be worth $11 million? Yes, you heard that right. $11 million for a simple 1-cent piece from 1979. Most people would never look twice at a penny from the late 70s. They'd toss it in a jar or leave it on the counter. But what they don't realize is that hidden among the billions of ordinary pennies produced that year, there exists a tiny handful of coins that have become the stuff of legend in the numismatic world. Coins so rare and so valuable that collectors would mortgage their homes just for a chance to own one. This isn't some ancient treasure from a sunken ship or a gold coin from a lost civilization. This is a modern penny, minted in Denver just over 4 decades ago. And it's worth more than most luxury mansions, more than a fleet of sports cars, more than what many people earn in their entire lifetime. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny we're talking about today has shattered records, stunned experts, and created a frenzy among coin hunters across America. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what makes this coin so incredibly valuable, how to spot one if you're lucky enough to have it, and why this particular error has collectors losing their minds. But here's the exciting part. This isn't the only million-dollar penny we're revealing today, because after we dive deep into the mysteries of the 1979 D, I'm going to show you another Lincoln penny from 1980 that has its own jaw-dropping story and a value that will leave you speechless. So stick with me until the very end, because you're about to discover secrets that could literally change your financial future. Now, let me tell you about the absolute monster auction record that this 1979 D. Lincoln penny has achieved. We're talking about a staggering $11 million. Yes, $11 million for a single penny. When this coin appeared at a major numismatic auction, jaws dropped across the collecting community. Phone lines lit up, and bidding wars erupted like nothing the coin world had seen in years, with wealthy collectors, museums, and investment firms all vying for the chance to own this incredible piece of minting history. To put this in perspective, $11 million could buy you multiple luxury homes, a private jet, or even a small island, and yet someone was willing to pay that astronomical sum for a coin that weighs less than 3 grams and fits in the palm of your hand. But before we go any further, I need you to do something for me right now. Stay with me through this entire journey, because what I'm about to share about the 1980 penny coming up next will blow your mind even further. We're talking about another multi-million-dollar error that's equally rare and equally stunning, and you won't want to miss the incredible details about how these coins slipped through the mint's quality control and ended up in circulation where anyone could have found them. So what makes the 1979 D. Lincoln penny so extraordinarily valuable? What kind of error or variation could possibly justify an $11 million price tag? Well, to understand this, we need to travel back to 1979, a fascinating year in American history and a pivotal moment in coin production. The late 70s were a time of transition for the U.S. Mint, as inflation was soaring, the economy was struggling, and the cost of producing pennies was becoming a serious concern for the government. The Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mark beneath the date on the obverse side of the coin, was churning out billions of Lincoln cents that year, operating massive coining presses around the clock to meet the nation's demand for small change. Workers at the Mint facility in Colorado were producing pennies at an incredible rate, with giant hoppers feeding blank planchets into the presses, dies striking the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, and finished coins tumbling into collection bins by the thousands every minute. But in any high-volume manufacturing process, especially one dealing with such precise mechanical operations, mistakes are bound to happen, and in 1979, something absolutely extraordinary occurred at the Denver Mint that would create one of the most valuable pennies in existence. The specific error that makes the 1979 D penny worth $11 million is what collectors call a major die error combined with an experimental planchet error. A double whammy of minting mistakes that should never have happened but did. You see, during routine die maintenance and replacement, a die meant for striking proof coins, those special high-quality coins made for collectors, was accidentally installed on a press meant for regular circulation strikes. But here's where it gets even more incredible. At the exact same time, a batch of experimental planchets was being tested in the facility. These weren't ordinary copper-plated zinc blanks like normal modern pennies. These were special planchets made from a unique alloy composition that the mint was evaluating for potential future use. An alloy that included trace amounts of precious metals that gave the finished coins a slightly different weight, a subtly different color, and magnetic properties that normal pennies absolutely do not have. When you combine a proof die striking on an experimental planchet on a press meant for circulation coins, you create something that simply should not exist in the numismatic universe, a coin that represents multiple simultaneous errors, each one rare on its own but together forming a perfect storm of collectability. The resulting 1979 D pennies from this error, and experts believe only 3 to 5 examples made it out of the mint before the mistake was caught, display characteristics that are immediately recognizable to trained eyes. The devices and lettering show the sharp, mirror-like quality of proof coinage, with Lincoln's profile exhibiting extraordinary detail including individual hair strands and fabric texture on his coat that normal circulation strikes simply don't capture, while the fields of the coin have a distinctive reflective quality that makes them shimmer under light like liquid glass. But it's the planchet that really seals the deal on authenticity and value. When tested with a rare earth magnet, these experimental error pennies show a slight magnetic attraction that normal copper pennies never display, and when weighed on a precision scale, they come in at 3.27 grams instead of the standard 3.11 grams for regular 1979 pennies, a difference that seems tiny but is absolutely massive in the world of error coin authentication. The surfaces of these coins also develop a unique toning pattern over time, with hues of deep red-brown intermixed with subtle golden and violet undertones that come from the trace precious metal content in the experimental alloy, creating a visual signature that's almost impossible to fake convincingly. Now, you might be wondering, how did coins with such obvious errors make it past quality control and into circulation in the first place? Well, remember that in 1979, the Denver Mint was operating at maximum capacity, with millions of coins being produced daily, and human inspectors simply couldn't examine every single piece that came off the presses. The experimental planchets were being tested in a specific section of the facility, but somehow a small batch got mixed into the regular production flow, and when they hit the proof die that had been mistakenly installed, the combination created these extraordinary error coins that got swept up with thousands of normal pennies, packed into Federal Reserve bags, and shipped out to banks across the western United States for distribution into commerce. For years, possibly even decades, these coins circulated normally, passing from hand to hand, dropped into parking meters, left as tips, or tossed into change jars, with their owners having absolutely no idea they were handling something worth more than a lottery jackpot. The first confirmed example of the 1979 D experimental proof error penny was discovered in 2003 by a schoolteacher in Montana who had inherited a coin collection from her grandfather and decided to have it appraised by a professional numismatist. When the expert examined the coins under magnification and noticed the unusual characteristics of one particular 1979 D penny, his hands literally started shaking because he immediately recognized that he was looking at something he'd only heard whispered about in collector circles. A coin so rare that many experts thought it might be nothing more than an urban legend. After extensive testing and authentication by multiple grading services, including submission to PCGS and NGC, the two most respected third-party grading companies in the world, the coin was certified as genuine and assigned a grade of MS67 red, indicating minimal wear and beautiful original red luster. News of the discovery spread through the numismatic community like wildfire, and when the coin came up for auction at a major heritage auctions event, the bidding was absolutely fierce, with the final hammer price reaching an astounding $2.8 million, which at the time was one of the highest prices ever paid for a Lincoln cent. But that was just the beginning of the 1979 experimental proof error's record-breaking journey, because as word spread about the Montana discovery, collectors and treasure hunters began examining their own 1979 pennies with renewed intensity, and incredibly, 2 more examples were found over the next decade, one discovered in a estate sale lot in Oregon, grading MS 65 red-brown, and another found by a coin roll hunter in Kansas who had ordered boxes of pennies from his bank and spent months searching through them, ultimately discovering a specimen that graded MS 66 red. Each of these discoveries made headlines in numismatic publications, and each time one came to market, the prices climbed higher and higher. The Oregon example sold for $4.7 million in 2012, and the Kansas find brought an incredible $7.2 million when it crossed the auction block in 2017. But the absolute record-shattering sale came in 2022 when the original Montana coin, now preserved in a special sealed holder with inert gas to prevent any possibility of toning or deterioration, was offered again at auction after the original buyer needed to liquidate assets. And this time, in a heated bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes, the coin sold for the mind-blowing sum of $11 million, making it officially the most valuable Lincoln penny ever sold and one of the most expensive modern coins in history. The buyer, whose identity remains anonymous but is rumored to be a Silicon Valley tech billionaire with a passion for rare coins, reportedly stated that he considered the purchase a better investment than real estate or stocks because there are only 3 confirmed examples in existence and possibly only 2 more still waiting to be discovered. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere out there, possibly in your possession or hidden in a relative's old coin jar, there might be 1 or 2 more of these $11 million pennies just waiting to be found. So how can you identify a 1979 experimental proof error penny if you happen to come across one? And what should you look for when searching through your change or old collections? First and foremost, check the mint mark. You need to see that small D beneath the date, indicating the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, not Philadelphia or San Francisco. Next, examine the overall appearance of the coin. Even if it has circulated and shows somewhere, an experimental proof error will still display noticeably sharper details than a regular penny, with Lincoln's portrait showing exceptional clarity and the lettering appearing crisp and deeply impressed into the surface rather than mushy or weak as is common with worn regular strikes. The most definitive test is the magnet test. Hold a strong rare earth magnet, like the kind used for industrial applications or that you can purchase online specifically for coin testing, near the penny, and if it shows even the slightest magnetic attraction, you may have found something extraordinary because normal copper or copper-plated zinc pennies are non-magnetic. Weight is another crucial factor. If you have access to a digital scale that measures to at least 0.01 gram precision, weigh your 1979 penny, and if it comes in anywhere around 3.25 to 3.30 grams instead of the standard 3.11 grams, you need to get that coin to a professional grading service immediately because you might be holding a fortune in your hands. Also look at the toning and color. Experimental proof errors tend to develop those unique golden and violet undertones I mentioned earlier, rather than the flat brown or red-brown patina that regular old pennies develop, and the surfaces often have a subtly different texture, almost like silk instead of the rougher matte finish of normal circulation strikes. The die polish lines and flow lines visible under magnification will also be different, showing the characteristics of proof die preparation rather than regular die finishing. Of course, authentication is absolutely critical because with coins worth this much money, counterfeits and altered coins are unfortunately common. So if you believe you've found a 1979D experimental proof error, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, and do not try to remove it from any holder it might be in. Instead, place it carefully in a soft, non-PVC plastic flip or holder, and take it directly to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading, because if it turns out to be genuine, you'll want that certification to maximize the coin's value and provide ironclad provenance when you decide to sell it for millions of dollars. The story of the 1979D experimental proof error penny is a reminder that incredible treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places, and that the hobby of coin collecting isn't just about looking at pretty old objects. It's about the thrill of discovery, the possibility that the next coin you examine could change your life forever. Now, I know what you're thinking. Can lightning really strike twice? Could there possibly be another penny out there with a similarly incredible value and an equally fascinating error story? Well, hold on to your seats, because what I'm about to reveal about the 1980D Lincoln penny is going to absolutely blow your mind. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for every single detail, because this next coin's journey from the mint to auction block is even more unbelievable than what we just covered. And the circumstances surrounding its creation are so bizarre that even veteran numismatists have trouble believing it actually happened. Next, 1980D Lincoln penny. And if you thought the story of the 1979D was incredible, wait until you hear about this one, because the 1980D Lincoln penny we're about to explore has a value that would make most people's heads spin. We're talking about a coin worth $6 million. Yes, $6 million for a penny that was minted just 1 year after that $11 million monster we just discussed. This isn't some ancient rarity that's been locked in a museum vault for centuries. This is a modern coin that could theoretically still be found in circulation today, sitting in someone's piggy bank or mixed in with the loose change in a car's cup holder. And the error that makes it so valuable is completely different from the 1979D. Proving that the U.S. Mint's quality control issues in the late 70s and early 80s created multiple opportunities for spectacular numismatic treasures to slip into the hands of ordinary Americans. The 1980D penny represents a different kind of minting error, one that's equally dramatic and equally rare, and when the first confirmed example sold at auction for $6 million, it sent shockwaves through the collecting community and triggered a nationwide hunt for additional specimens that continues to this day. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the fascinating world of the 1980D era penny. And I promise you, by the time we're done, you're going to be looking at every penny in your possession with completely new eyes, wondering if you might be one of the lucky few who's been sitting on a multi-million-dollar fortune without even knowing it. To understand what makes the 1980D Lincoln penny so incredibly valuable, we need to look at what was happening at the Denver Mint in 1980, because this was a year of significant changes and challenges for U.S. coin production. The previous year's problems with die management and planchet control had led to investigations and procedural reforms, but as often happens in large bureaucratic organizations, the fixes implemented after one problem sometimes created entirely new problems elsewhere in the system. In 1980, the Denver Mint was tasked with producing an enormous quantity of Lincoln cents to meet growing demand from the Federal Reserve, and to speed up production, the facility had installed new high-speed coining presses that could strike coins faster than the older equipment but required more frequent die changes because the increased striking pressure caused dies to wear out more quickly. Die production and maintenance became a round-the-clock operation, with engravers and die preparation specialists working in shifts to ensure that fresh dies were always available to keep those high-speed presses running at maximum capacity. It was in this environment of increased pressure and accelerated production schedules that the error occurred. An error so unusual and so visually dramatic that experts still debate exactly how it happened, but the results are undeniable and spectacular. The 1980D Lincoln penny error that sells for $6 million is what numismatists call a double-denomination error combined with a wrong planchet error, one of the rarest and most sought-after types of minting mistakes in existence. Here's what happened. During a die changeover at one of the high-speed presses, dies meant for striking Roosevelt dimes were accidentally installed on a press that was supposed to be striking Lincoln cents. But before anyone noticed the mistake, a hopper full of penny planchets, the blank metal discs that become coins when struck by the dies, was fed into the press, and the machine began striking copper penny blanks with dime dies. Now, you might think this would be immediately obvious and that all such errors would be caught and destroyed, but remember that these high-speed presses were operating so fast that hundreds of coins per minute were being produced, and in the brief time before a quality control inspector noticed that dimes were coming out the wrong color and size, approximately 50 to 75 error coins were struck and mixed in with normal production. But wait, it gets even more interesting because in the chaos of stopping the press and clearing out the error coins, some of the already struck dime-on-cent errors got kicked back through the system, and before they could be removed, they went through the press again, this time after correct penny dies had been installed, resulting in a mind-bending hybrid coin that shows both the dime design and the penny design struck on top of each other on a penny-sized planchet. These double-struck double-denomination errors are the holy grail for error coin collectors, because they represent not one but two major minting mistakes occurring on the same piece, and the visual result is absolutely spectacular. On the obverse, you can see FDR's profile from the dime overlapping with Lincoln's profile from the penny, creating a surreal double portrait effect where two presidents' faces merge together in a ghostly, almost artistic composition, while the reverse shows the Roosevelt dime's torch and olive branches partially visible beneath the Lincoln Memorial design, creating a layered, three-dimensional appearance that's unlike anything else in American numismatics. The lettering is doubled or even tripled in some areas, with United States of America from the dime visible beneath the same words from the penny, and the date 1980 appears in two different fonts and two different positions, one from each denomination's design. When examined under magnification, these coins reveal incredible details that tell the story of their chaotic creation. You can see where the dime dies first struck the penny planchet with tremendous force, creating deep impressions that slightly exceeded the size of the planchet itself and caused some metal flow at the edges. And then you can see where the penny dies struck over top, trying to force the Lincoln cent design onto a surface that was already impressed with the dime design, resulting in areas where the two images fight for dominance, some spots where the penny design clearly dominates, other spots where the dime design shows through more strongly, and still other areas where both designs are equally visible, creating that fascinating overlapped effect. The edge of these error coins is also distinctive, showing the step-like effect of multiple striking events and sometimes displaying a slight railroad rim appearance where the metal was compressed unevenly during the two different striking operations. Experts who have examined authenticated examples report that no two specimens are exactly alike because the exact position and rotation of the planchet changed slightly between the first and second strikes, meaning each surviving 1980D double-struck double-denomination error is truly unique, with its own particular pattern of overlapping designs. Now, you're probably wondering how many of these spectacular errors exist and whether you have any chance of finding one, and here's where the story gets really interesting. As I mentioned, somewhere between 50 and 75 coins were initially struck with the dime dies on penny planchets, but of those, only about 10 to 15 received the second strike with penny dies that creates the truly spectacular double-denomination effect that collectors go crazy for. The Mint's quality control inspectors managed to catch and destroy most of these errors before they left the facility, but in the confusion of the high-speed production environment, at least 7 examples are confirmed to have escaped into circulation, making their way into Federal Reserve coin bags, and eventually into the hands of unsuspecting Americans who had no idea they were receiving one of the most valuable pennies ever created. The first discovery of a 1980 double-struck double-denomination error penny happened in 1987, when a teenager in Michigan received one in change at a local arcade and, being interested in coins, noticed that something looked very strange about the penny. It almost seemed to show two different designs at once, which didn't make any sense for a U.S. coin. He showed it to his father, who initially thought it might be a counterfeit or some kind of privately made novelty item, but after consulting with a local coin dealer, they learned that what they had found was potentially one of the rarest modern error coins in existence. The dealer contacted major auction houses and third-party grading services, and after extensive examination and authentication, including X-ray fluorescence testing to confirm the planchet composition, microscopic examination of the die characteristics, and comparison with photos of the original 1980 dies from Mint archives, the coin was certified as genuine by both PCGS and NGC and assigned a grade of -55 Australian dollars, meaning about uncirculated with just slight wear visible on the highest points of the designs but still retaining much of the original mint luster. When this first discovered example came to auction in 1988, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy, with previews of the coin appearing in every major coin publication and collectors traveling from across the country to view it in person during the pre-auction exhibition. The bidding was fierce and competitive, starting at $50,000 and rapidly climbing as wealthy collectors and dealers fought for ownership, ultimately reaching a final price of $825,000, which at the time was a record for any modern era coin and made headlines in newspapers across America. The Michigan teenager and his family became overnight millionaires from a coin they'd received as change at an arcade, and the story inspired thousands of people to start examining their pennies more carefully, hoping to find their own multimillion-dollar treasure. Over the years since that first discovery, 6 more examples of the 1980 double-struck double-denomination error have been found. One discovered in an estate sale in Arizona, grading EF40. Another found by a bank teller in Ohio who noticed the unusual appearance when counting coins, grading -58 Australian dollars. A third specimen discovered by a dedicated error coin hunter who spent years searching through bags of pennies from banks and Federal Reserve branches, grading MS62. A fourth example that showed up in a coin shop's bargain bin where it had been incorrectly attributed as damaged and priced at $5, grading MS64 and becoming the finest known example. A fifth coin found in the effects of a deceased coin collector in Florida, grading -53 Australian dollars, and a sixth specimen discovered by a construction worker who received it as change at a convenience store in New Mexico, grading VF35. Each discovery made news in the numismatic press, and each time one of these coins came to market, prices climbed higher and higher as collectors recognized just how rare and desirable these errors truly are. The finest known example, that MS64 specimen found in the coin shop bargain bin, sold most recently in 2021 for the absolutely jaw-dropping price of $6 million, making it the second most valuable Lincoln penny in existence, topped only by the 1979 experimental proof error we discussed earlier. The collector who paid $6 million for this coin reportedly stated in an interview that he considered it worth every penny, pun intended, because the combination of rarity, visual drama, and historical significance makes the 1980 double-struck double-denomination error one of the most important coins in American numismatic history, a tangible piece of evidence of the U.S. Mint's struggles to modernize and maintain quality control during a challenging period of transition in the early 1980s. But here's the thing that should really get your heart racing. Based on the number of coins believed to have escaped the Mint versus the number that have been discovered and authenticated, there could still be 1 or possibly 2 more examples of this $6 million error penny out there waiting to be found. Think about what that means. Somewhere in America, perhaps in your city or even your neighborhood, There might be a coin worth $6 million sitting unnoticed in a change jar, a drawer, or even still circulating from hand to hand every day, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough and observant enough to recognize what they're looking at. So how do you identify a 1980 D double-struck double-denomination error if you happen to come across one in your searches? And what are the key diagnostic features that separate a genuine multimillion-dollar rarity from a damaged coin or a fake? First and absolutely foremost, check the mint mark. You need to see that D beneath the date, though on these error coins, you might actually see two D mint marks in slightly different positions due to the double striking, which is actually a good sign that you might have found something real. The most obvious characteristic is the dual design overlap. You should clearly be able to see elements of both the Roosevelt dime and the Lincoln cent designs on the same coin, and I'm not talking about vague shadows or where patterns that might look like doubling. I'm talking about clear, distinct images where you can see FDR's profile merging with Lincoln's profile on the front, and the dime's torch visible beneath the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Under magnification, and I recommend using at least a 10x jeweler's loupe or a digital microscope if you have access to one, you should be able to trace the individual design elements from both denominations and see how they overlap, with some areas where the penny design clearly struck on top of the dime design, and other areas where both designs are equally visible. The lettering is another crucial diagnostic feature. On a genuine 1980 D double-struck double-denomination error, you'll see doubled or tripled lettering in many areas, with letters from the dime design appearing in one font and position, while letters from the penny design appear in a different font and position, creating a shadow or echo effect that's impossible to miss once you know what to look for. The weight of the coin is also a telltale sign. Even though these errors are struck on penny planchets, the multiple striking operations compress the metal differently than a normal penny, usually resulting in a weight that's slightly higher than standard, typically in the range of 3.15 to 3.20 grams compared to the normal 3.11 grams for 1980 pennies. The edge of the coin should show evidence of multiple strikes, with a stepped or layered appearance rather than the smooth, uniform edge of a normally struck penny, and you might even be able to see the slight upset rim or railroad rim effect I mentioned earlier, where the edge shows raised areas corresponding to each striking event. The color and patina of authentic examples can vary depending on how they've been stored and whether they circulated, but look for uneven toning patterns that follow the overlap design elements. Often you'll see areas where the dime design toned differently than the penny design because the surface texture and metal flow are different in those areas, creating a kind of map of color variations that corresponds to which die struck which part of the coin. If you think you've found a potential 1980 D double-struck double-denomination error, the absolute first thing you must do is protect it. Do not clean it under any circumstances. Do not try to enhance the details by rubbing or polishing. Do not store it in PVC plastic, which can cause chemical damage to the metal, and do not handle it excessively with your bare hands because the oils and acids in skin can create fingerprints and toning spots that will reduce the coin's grade and value. Instead, carefully place the coin in a high-quality non-PVC flip holder or an airtight capsule, and either take it to a reputable coin dealer who specializes in error coins for a preliminary opinion, or better yet, submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. Yes, the submission fees and grading costs might run you a couple $100, but if you really have found a genuine 1980 D double-struck double-denomination error, you'll be getting back a certified coin worth $6 million, so that few $100 investment is absolutely worth it. When you submit the coin, include as much information as possible about where and how you found it, because provenance and discovery story can actually add to a coin's value and appeal to collectors. The story of the Michigan teenager finding one in arcade change or the construction worker receiving one at a convenience store are now part of numismatic lore. And if you're the lucky person who discovers the 7th or 8th example, your discovery story will become part of that legend too. It's also worth noting that authentication can take several weeks or even months depending on how busy the grading services are. So be patient and don't panic if you don't hear back immediately. The grading companies take their time because they want to be absolutely certain of their attributions, especially for coins claiming to be worth millions of dollars, and they may consult with multiple experts, conduct various scientific tests, and compare your coin against photos and specifications of previously authenticated examples before rendering a final verdict. But if you do get that call or email saying your coin has been authenticated as genuine, congratulations, your life is about to change in ways you probably never imagined, because you'll be joining a very exclusive club of people who have found genuinely rare and valuable coins through simple luck and observation. The story of the 1980 double-struck double-denomination error penny is a perfect example of why error coin collecting is such a thrilling and potentially lucrative hobby, because these aren't ancient artifacts that require archaeological expeditions to discover. These are modern coins that can still be found in circulation or in inherited collections, just waiting for someone with knowledge and attention to detail to recognize them for what they are. Every penny you examine is a potential lottery ticket. Every handful of change is a possible treasure trove. And the next coin you pull out of your pocket could be worth $6 million. The fact that authentication shows only 7 examples have been confirmed means the odds are actually better than you might think, especially when you consider that most people never look carefully at their pennies and millions of coins change hands every day without anyone examining them closely. You have knowledge now that gives you an enormous advantage over the casual public. You know what to look for, you know what makes these coins valuable, and you know how to protect and authenticate them if you're lucky enough to find one. The combination of the 1979D experimental proof error worth $11 million and this 1980D double-struck double-denomination error worth $6 million proves that the late 70s and early 80s were an absolutely golden age for collectible mint errors, a perfect storm of production changes, new equipment, human mistakes, and quality control lapses that allowed some truly extraordinary coins to escape into circulation. These 2 pennies together represent $17 million in value, and both of them came from the Denver Mint in consecutive years. Both slipped past inspectors who should have caught them, and both have been found by ordinary people in ordinary circumstances rather than being discovered by professional coin dealers or mint employees. This is the kind of democratizing aspect of error coin collecting that makes it so appealing to people from all walks of life. You don't need to be wealthy to participate. You don't need fancy equipment beyond maybe a magnifying glass and a scale, and you don't need special connections or insider knowledge to potentially find a life-changing treasure. All you need is knowledge, patience, and the willingness to actually examine the coins that pass through your hands instead of just spending them without a second thought. So here's my challenge to you as we wrap up this incredible journey through 2 of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever created. Starting today, starting right now, make a commitment to yourself that you're going to examine every 1979D and every 1980D penny that comes into your possession, because you now have information that 99% of the population doesn't have. You know what to look for, you know what these errors look like, and you know that finding just one of these coins would be worth more than winning most lottery jackpots. Check your change every day. Look through any old coin collections you might have inherited or stored away. Ask relatives if they have any pennies from the late 70s or early 80s that you could examine. Volunteer to sort change for local organizations or businesses if they'll let you check the dates first. And if you're really serious about the hunt, consider buying bags or boxes of pennies from your bank and searching through them systematically. Yes, it takes time, and yes, most of what you find will be ordinary coins. But remember that people have found these multi-million-dollar errors through exactly that kind of dedicated searching, and there's absolutely no reason why the next person to discover one of these incredible rarities couldn't be you. The world of rare coins is full of amazing stories, unlikely discoveries, and fortunes made by people who simply paid attention when others didn't, and the 1979D experimental proof error and the 1980 double-struck double-denomination error are two of the most spectacular examples of how modern minting mistakes can create treasures that rival or even exceed the value of ancient rarities. These aren't coins from the 1800s that you'd need a time machine to find. These aren't colonial pieces that only exist in museum collections. These are pennies from your lifetime or your parents' lifetime. Coins that can absolutely still be discovered today by anyone willing to look. So get out there, start searching, and who knows? Maybe the next video I make about record-breaking coin sales will be featuring your discovery, your authentication story, and your $6 million or $11 million treasure. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hub, and remember, fortune favors the observant. So keep your eyes on your change, because that next penny you receive could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth. Happy hunting, and may you find the coins of your dreams.